So have you seen that guy on TikTok that did like parallel charging shit with his Tesla? And I think it's the same guy who put a Bitcoin mining rig in the like trunk.
I have seen that.
And he was running it with the electricity from the charging station.
There's a couple of people that have like jailbroken their Teslas.
There is?
What I've seen.
Fuck. There's one dude at least I know who got a cease and desist from Tesla telling him, hey, you need to cut this shit out or we are going to shut off your Model X.
What?
Right? Crazy that one they can do that. And so eventually he's like, no, fuck that. I'm going to keep doing it for the memes, right?
Mm-hmm.
They shut off his car.
Why are they allowed to do that?
That's what I'm saying. The whole thing that's got me pissed off about
private property, I thought.
Exactly. All these libertarian Elon Musk fanboys
Yeah.
would be literally rioting in the street if the government could do anything like that, if they even had like access to any function of your car. There are motherfuckers that already get mad that you can't like take your muffler off, you know?
Yeah.
But nobody gives a shit.
They get mad about having to have a driver's license to drive a
Literally.
car.
But nobody gives a shit when a private company can just say, you're done.
Yeah, what is that
You're
about?
done. Exactly.
Why do libertarians only care about like coercive power structures when it's the state? It's like they're like a child.
Because they see themselves in Elon Musk, even though they didn't come from an emerald mine. They did not come from an apartheid emerald mine like he did.
Wait, why do they think that they will ever reach the same status as Elon Musk?
Ever achieve that much wealth? Literally the richest man in the world.
This is part of the issue is that Tesla has just a complete monopoly on electric vehicles right now.
Yeah, that's also
not
facts.
only the production of electric vehicles and like the sale of electric vehicles, but also all the charging stations, because the Tesla charging stations are incompatible with other electric cars.
And also just the way that they can run their company because they receive so many subsidies from the government.
So many.
That's why we mentioned I think like 3 or 4 pods ago that it's kind of hard to advocate for green energy subsidies, even though we need to, because most of them go to Tesla.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
He gets so much money from the government. And also, by the way, he's always on Twitter talking about how like his tax dollars shouldn't go to the poor and they shouldn't go to end world hunger because, you know, the politicians won't use it correctly, which is true. But also he's not doing anything to help low-income people because he actively stops his workers from unionizing all the time.
He actively wants to keep them low income so he can force them to go and work for him on Mars.
Yeah.
And so he can be the god king of Mars.
So he can start the first plantation on Mars.
Exactly.
Which he will definitely do. I hate Elon Musk. This is why you don't let billionaires build infrastructure for your country.
Dude, not only that, it's if we look at his infrastructure project, the fucking boring company, like the tunnels under LA for those little shitty like fucking Tesla cars, just build a high-speed rail.
Is that the Hyperloop?
That is the Hyperloop.
That's the Hyperloop?
That's the Hyperloop.
It's so lame.
It's so lame. It is so inefficient. It's also just fucking stupid.
Just build a rail.
High-speed rail, baby.
Just build high-speed intercontinental rail.
That's it. That's actually all that we need. We don't need a stupid, like, segregatory car tunnel. You know?
We don't need apartheid for our cars.
Facts.
Please just give me a hyper-speed train. That'd be pretty sick.
That would be sick. Just like China.
You know what else is pretty sick? The pod.
This episode.
Welcome back to Head in the Office, everybody. It's a special day today. You know why? You know why it's a special day?
Why is it a special day? Go ahead
Today
and tell me.
marks 6 months of the pod.
That's crazy. Episode 24. That's
episode
wild.
24. And we got a special episode planned. We're going to do a little bit more of holiday preparation for those of you celebrating the holidays at the end of the year.
Since you all seem to like Holiday Pregame Part 1 so much, we decided to hit you with another one.
Yeah, we got more pregame for you. We do got to talk about a little bit of news. There was some news that happened this week. But as we're winding down for the year, not too much is happening, and we got to prepare y'all to be with your families, regardless of what holiday you may be celebrating this year.
Exactly. Whatever winter holiday you're going for, you got it.
Or even if you're not going for a holiday and you're just going to see your family because you'll be on break, whatever, we got to prepare you.
Even if you're just going to see anybody and you want to start a fight.
Oh, yeah. Even if you're just interacting as a normal human being with somebody in the grocery store and you're like, all right, what's your take on Israel? We got you.
Yeah, facts.
We got you. But before we get into that, you know what I'm going to say?
are you going to say?
Head over to the Patreon if you want to support the show.
Course.
You get exclusive access to all of our content, early access to all of our content. You'll get the new stuff that we're coming up with. We'll get there one day.
Someday we might actually commit. College is hard, y'all.
But support the show. Become a patron. Consider it if you're not already. But if you want to support the show other ways, check out the YouTube, the TikTok. Give us a 5-star review on Apple. That'd be great.
Like these two people.
And we actually got 2 5-star reviews today. We got the first one here. It says, "Love these guys." That's the subject line by Cliff15470. It says,
"Wonderful.
This podcast is amazing. They have this casual flow that makes a person feel like they aren't hearing some facts from faceless people, but as if they're chilling on the couch."
That's the goal.
Which we are.
That's why we got some couches.
That's why we got some couches. Their personalities complement each other, even when it comes to intense or complicated topics. These guys have talent of approaching it in a respectful way. Don't stop what you're doing, guys.
We won't. Don't worry.
Yeah, I really appreciate that.
No, literally, actually, yeah.
Like, it
never
means
been
a lot
called
to us.
talented before.
It means a lot because we just be up here spitting, going crazy for no reason.
Facts.
Yeah.
Facts. Without y'all, we'd literally just be yelling at Jeremy's phone.
That's true. That's so true. The next review we got on Apple Podcasts, 5-star review. By the way, go leave one.
Let's go.
The next one is from Neon Tari. Subject line, "I feel called out."
Yeah.
It says, "First off, I love your podcast and love what you're doing, but I left a comment on your TikTok saying I'll leave a 5-star review, then I forgot, and then I listened to the new episode, and I'm being called out. So here's a 5-star review. Love you both, y'all. Patreon is on the way."
Hey, bro, that's what we do. That's what we do here.
Look, I didn't mean to call you out directly, but it worked.
Exactly.
What can I say?
5-star review.
Like,
we got the review. You get the content.
You may question my methods,
Yeah.
but it got the job done.
You get to feel like recognized.
Yeah.
You know?
It quite honestly got the job done.
Facts.
So, we appreciate both of you for leaving a review for us. If you guys want your review read on the pod, leave one. We'll get it to next week.
Exactly.
We'll get on here next week. But I think it's time to dive into some of our news coverage for this week.
Dive into this week's news. Kind of putrid.
So, first thing we got to talk about is an update on the vaccine testing rule for workplaces with over 100 employees that we've talked about a couple times on the show. Mm-hmm. You all may remember that back in October, Biden issued a vaccine or testing requirement for all workplaces with over 100 employees. The order was supposed to go through OSHA, but it was blocked by a court last month in November. Yeah. But the ruling flipped.
For real?
And the requirement's back on the books. As of last Friday, with the 6th Circuit Court of Appeal saying that the harm to the government and the public interest outweighs any irreparable injury to individual petitioners who may be subject to a vaccine policy.
Now you see, is this still the New Orleans 6th Circuit Court of Appeals?
I don't know. It's just I don't know which one it was.
Is it the same one that took up the order that we talked about before?
I would feel like it's a different one if they're giving a different ruling.
That's what I was thinking. Okay, I was gonna say if these guys flipped, you got no excuse.
Yeah,
You actually got no excuse.
No, I think it's different judges, but that was one of their quotes. And then an NPR article that I was looking at goes on to say, in addition to vaccine and testing requirements, the rule requires companies to determine who among their workers are vaccinated and who are not, and to enforce a mask mandate for all unvaccinated workers. The new deadline for those steps is January 10th. So pretty cool.
I wonder how conservatives are going to feel about unemployment once they lose their jobs because they don't want to comply with public health orders.
Yeah, I wonder if they'll think that COBRA is insufficient once they lose their job.
I wonder how they're going to start to feel about social safety nets.
They're not going to change their mind.
Come on now.
But this is actually, it's a pretty good step, and I'm happy it's happening.
I'm happy it's happening too. And I've noticed like with boosters specifically, like where I go to college, MSU, we just got an email yesterday or 2 days ago. They're like, yeah, everybody before you come back for the semester, boosters, get them or you're gone.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's but now I got to schedule my booster.
That is pretty cool, though.
Yeah, that is
so
cool.
hopefully,
I do fucks with that.
Hopefully this doesn't get overturned again. I'm sure that whoever originally sued, I think was it the state of Texas or Mississippi or something? I don't even remember.
No, that was abortion.
Oh, was that the abortion?
Mississippi was abortion.
Whoever sued for this one, I can't remember who it was. It's probably some Republican state.
Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't get overturned again, and hopefully it can actually go into place for longer than one day, last time.
Hopefully this doesn't go to the incompetent Supreme Court.
Yeah, exactly. But the next piece of news I thought was notable. A little bit less exciting, less of a W, actually an L, one might say.
A massive L, for sure.
Last week in a press conference, Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House,
yeah,
she was asked about elected officials being able to trade stock while in office. And I think it's notable to say that barring members from being able to trade individual assets is something that has bipartisan support, actually.
For sure.
Republicans and Democrats across the aisle support barring members of Congress from being able to trade stocks because, they have the ability to influence the stock market.
Yes.
Within their own seat of power.
Unparalleled ability to do that.
But Nancy Pelosi, she said that members of Congress should be able to trade individual stocks.
Dog.
And that, quote, we're in a free market economy. They should be able to participate in that.
See, this is fucking stupid because at every lower level of government and just any lower level of federal employee, there are a myriad of restrictions that you can't do. Even, did you know that an air traffic controller cannot own stock in any airline?
Really?
Yes.
That's good.
Yes.
It's a conflict of interest.
Most public-facing politicians aren't like allowed to endorse like restaurants and shit in their communities. But they can go buy stocks based on laws that they get to write.
Do you remember back when Trump endorsed Goya beans?
Yes. Yes, I do.
On Instagram,
yes, I
he did like 2 photo ops with Goya beans.
Bro did a hashtag ad.
Just immediately, like, that's like a violation of federal law that never got enforced. But that was so funny.
No, they don't give a shit about it.
I know, but yeah, like they have Congress people that have a direct hand in the functioning and the stability of the stock market. And if they're able to own individual stocks, they can just change laws around the economy that will boost their portfolio, and they've been known to do that. David Perdue literally did that.
David Perdue and 6 other senators literally got caught like red-handed doing it. Like they violated those laws. Nothing happened.
Yeah, because wasn't it David Perdue? He bought stock in a company that made masks.
Yes,
made PPE.
It was COVID
before public news was announced, or just like news was released from the government that coronavirus was going to be an issue and you need masks.
It was before the public was aware about like how severe the coronavirus shit was. Like 2 weeks before, a bunch of senators like bought stock in this shit.
Right. Like how can you say we have a free market economy if those that are privy to more information have more of a power to influence it than regular people? That's not free.
And it's like people like to say, oh well, they have to disclose all their like trades, all their assets. Yeah, a month later.
Yeah.
You don't find out till a month later, so you can't act on any of that information.
There is already one law in the books.
Okay.
It's called the Stock Act, which prohibits members from trading based on non-public information, but it's regularly violated. The article I was reading said, like, I don't know if it's like what the time frame was, like the past year, past 2 years, 10 years, whatever. But the number I saw was like 162 members have violated the act.
Yes, I did see that.
Nothing happens
one
to them.
Specifically, David Perdue last year. Mm-hmm. Nothing happened.
Nothing happened. Kelly Loeffler also did it.
Exactly.
Nothing happened to her.
Exactly.
Nothing happens to these people. And by the way, Pelosi, the one who made this announcement, is one of the wealthiest members of Congress when you account for her assets and her stocks. Yeah.
Love it.
Or she may be the wealthiest member of Congress. She's got millions.
Wow.
Like, so she's got a little bit of personal interest playing here.
Maybe
this is actually
some conflict of interest going on.
Perfectly represents why this should not be allowed.
Thanks.
Because her individual interests were overpowering what is actually the best for the country.
This perfectly represents the American political circus right here.
Yeah. Members of Congress absolutely should be barred from trading stocks.
1,000%.
Like, it's not a free market at that point if those with more information are able to influence the stock market more than you are.
Don't get us wrong. Free? It's not a free market anyway.
Oh, it's not.
Like, it's not a free market anyway, but for reasons that they don't like to admit.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's not a free market. I mean, even if members of Congress were barred from being able to trade stocks, there would still be people within the economy, like those that sit at the top of corporations, that can influence the economy more than your average Joe.
Facts.
Which already makes it not a free market.
Yeah.
Because, like, how are you supposed to compete with, massive hedge funds?
And it's
like it would be nice if our elected officials didn't just get to profit when everyone else was suffering,
And it's like, we're going to talk about corporate crime a little bit later.
Yep.
But even like at the C-suite level within corporations, you're not allowed to do insider trading, and they're held more accountable. These motherfuckers that are usually never held accountable by like regular you and me type of person standards are held more accountable for stock crimes and financial crimes than the people who write the laws surrounding those crimes.
Yeah.
Who regularly violate them.
Or the lack of laws.
Yes, literally.
Yeah. So I hate Nancy Pelosi. She's literally just terrible.
But you already knew that.
She's absolutely
just another
horrible.
reason.
Let's move on to another one of our favorite congresspeople.
This one's got a special place in our heart. We've been covering it for basically the life of the pod.
Joe Manchin's on it again, folks.
Woo!
Joe Manchin once again proving to us that he hates poor people.
I know it's been a couple weeks. I bet you're all wondering what this guy's been up to. Nothing good.
Yeah, so Sunday, which is today for us, Joe Manchin, he went on Fox News Sunday.
Woo-hoo-hoo.
So you already know it's off to a bad start.
He's been ramping up the Fox News appearances.
He was on Fox News this morning, Sunday morning, with Brett Baier.
Yeah.
Which is the dude he also did that other interview with.
Yes, it was. Yes,
about
it was.
This same topic. And he was saying that he is not going to support or vote for the Build Back Better plan in any capacity.
After he completely hijacked negotiations, forced everyone to just bend their will around him like a little man-child.
Yep. And just a reminder, Build Back Better, since we haven't talked about it in a while,
True.
includes making healthcare more affordable with like Medicare expansions and stuff, making housing more affordable. It invests in pre-K education, also invest in higher education, invest in climate change technology.
It was like 2 years free community college.
2 years free community college.
Medicare to negotiate drug prices. Which
child tax
is
credit.
cut out of that already. Like that's been out of the equation. A lot of the good things have been out for a while now.
But there's a whole lot of stuff that still could be passed.
Yeah.
You want to know what Joe Manchin said? He said, quote, "I cannot vote to continue with this piece of legislation. I just can't. I tried everything humanly possible. I can't get there. This is a no on this legislation."
It's literally just because, like, there's, like, what, $500 million for, like, climate shit?
Yeah.
Like, in new spending, that's it.
And this dude is the chair of the Natural Energy and Resources Committee or
yeah,
something.
and he also owns a fucking coal company. Yeah. Or, I'm sorry, he doesn't own a coal company. His son owns a coal company.
He's got, what is it, like a blind stock, blind fund, whatever that's called?
A blind trust, 500,
yeah, blind trust.
And he made $500,000 in dividends. It's either 500,000 or 5 million in dividends last year.
Yeah,
from this.
It's a blind trust, except he has the explicit power to influence how much money that corporation makes.
Yes, and he's directly like in the pockets of Exxon.
Yeah,
like he lives there basically.
You know, you may ask. You know, he's on Fox News. He's saying all this. Why? Like, what reason did he give?
Yeah.
Joe Manchin, he said that he's concerned about the national debt. He's concerned about inflation.
Okay.
And he's concerned about the rising COVID-19 cases. 3 things which he's never done anything to address.
Facts. And one of those things which could be addressed by the Build Back Better bill, which could make people better as people have to return to work.
Yep.
I think that they need more childcare.
Maybe they need a little bit more social safety nets. Like, if they lose their job, they don't just go broke.
And I'm pretty sure it's only, what, a 2-year extension to the child tax credit?
I can't remember. I think most of the programs, it was going to be 10 years for most of them.
Yeah, but
it was whittled down to 3 and 4 for most programs. So probably in there somewhere.
Yeah, and it's like something like that, and it was not an expansion.
Nope.
The money did not go up.
Nope.
And I think the child tax credit was the only thing for childcare. No, excuse me. There was another thing saying you couldn't spend more than 7% of your income on childcare. But I don't know if Joe Manchin took that out again. Like, he took all of the good things out.
That was the talking point. And I think we said on the pod that we never really knew how that was going to be implemented.
Yeah, we did.
But that would have been cool.
It would have been cool. Like, it's something, I guess.
Yeah. But that was actually another main issue that Joe Manchin had, was he said that Democrats drew the programs back from, most of them were 10 years. The Democrats drew them mostly back to 3 or 4 years. Uh-huh. Manchin said this hid the true impact on the debt. And he said, No. He argued that these programs would undoubtedly be extended again, meaning that only setting it for 3 and 4 years obfuscated the actual impact there would be on the national debt. But this portends that the programs would actually get extended. And since Joe Manchin will still be in the Senate, they wouldn't have been. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And this is also operating on the pretext that the bill wasn't being paid for, which was the whole thing surrounding the Build Back Better plan, was that it was going to be paid for by the tax increases that Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema took out of the bill.
Well, Joe Manchin said that he supported higher taxes in some areas. Kyrsten Sinema said a blanket no.
Yes, he said 100%. Absolutely no. Definitely no.
Bro, they're so funny. I hate them so much. Let me leave you with the last quote that Joe Manchin said. And this one's especially putrid. Okay. He said, "My Democratic colleagues in Washington are determined to dramatically reshape our society in a way that leaves our country even more vulnerable to the threats that we face. I cannot take that risk with a staggering debt of more than $29 trillion and inflation and taxes that are real and harmful to every hardworking American at the gasoline pumps, grocery stores, and utility bills with no end in sight."
But tax cuts are cool. Like, that's the thing. That's the thing about these motherfuckers is we need to focus on the national debt, but tax cuts, not going to happen.
Right.
Or no, tax cuts are going to happen.
Tax cuts are going to happen, and we're going to perpetually raise the military budget every single year.
Yes, we are going to approve, which he was a part of approving, a record high military budget. What was that, 2 weeks ago or a week ago? Was that this week? I don't know. Time's kind of, just
it was within the last year.
Yeah, sometime within the last year. They just approved a record high military budget, even though we're out of Afghanistan.
Yeah.
We are not actively in any wars right now. Why is the budget so high?
I don't know, Joe.
Why didn't he talk about that? Why doesn't he stand on principle?
Maybe life for hardworking Americans would be a little bit easier if, like, they could afford housing.
Facts.
Or they could afford healthcare in West Virginia.
Or if they could afford to go to college.
Yeah. Well, education, fastest way to upward social mobility. Joe Manchin doesn't want them to have it. He doesn't give a fuck about low-income working-class families. Because if he did, he would do things for his state, which is the poorest in the union.
The extent to which he cares about the working class is the extent to which they can work at Enter Systems, his coal company. Yeah. That's it.
Might as well just rename West Virginia to Enter Systems at this point. And I know we hate on Manchin a lot, and we are right now just because he was in the news this morning. But let's not forget that in addition to Joe Manchin, every single Republican is voting no.
Yeah.
In the House and in the Senate.
Yeah, and in addition to that, another thing I wanted to talk about is there's a huge crowd like within the party. They're the like but Manchin crowd who put all of the party's flaws on Manchin and Sinema right now.
Yeah.
There are at least like I want to say 7 or 8 other Democratic senators that did not want to vote for this and that are just letting Joe and Kirsten take the fall. Do not get me wrong. The Democratic Party is still just shit. They are absolutely shit. Like, Chuck Schumer only took up like this student loan rhetoric because he knows that Biden isn't going to get rid of it.
Yeah. And to be fair, I mean, out of all of the Democratic senators in the Senate right now, Joe Manchin's really the only one that I feel like could maybe get away with this just because he's in West Virginia.
Oh, literally.
But like people like Kirsten Sinema, you have no excuse to act like this. Like, and you're telling me that Joe Manchin actually wanted to raise taxes? I guarantee that he did not. No. But they're just separating who's opposing what amongst those that are going to vote against this plan.
Oh, yeah, they're trying to separate the articles, you know?
Yeah, exactly. They're trying to minimize the damage that any individual takes by spreading out who opposes what different aspects of the bill.
Like, what a coincidence that Joe Manchin is only getting shit on for, like, what is it, the energy portions and the child portions, whereas Kirsten Sinema is getting shit on. They're both getting shit on for taxes, but Kirsten to a greater extent, and she's also getting shit on for blanketly opposing almost any Medicare expansion.
Yes, all of it.
Yeah, yes.
And it's funny how the pieces of the bill that they are proposing are the exact ones of the industries that they're in the pocket of.
Yeah,
like funny how that works out.
Crazy.
It's so explicit, and it's so funny because like nothing is going to be done, at least in terms of like how our democracy functions and how or what kind of money that senators, politicians can take from interest groups. Like none of that's going to change. So this is just going to keep happening. Gotta hate them. Hate it. In other news, and a last piece of news here before we get into prepping you all for the holidays.
Facts.
We gotta talk a little bit more about the coup.
Facts.
There's a little bit of news on the coup. So, and it's crazy that this is the smaller news this week. You know what I mean?
Jan 6 update. You know,
it's crazy that this is the smaller news. Like a coup should be the biggest thing that we're always talking about, but we literally can't.
Especially this, like the specific information in here, I feel like should be a little bigger.
So it was revealed that former White House Chief of Staff for Donald Trump, Mark Meadows, was forced to hand over some text related to the January 6th committee on the day that it happened.
Nice.
And it was revealed that Donald Trump Jr. and several Fox News anchors were actually texting Mark Meadows during the attack on the Capitol, telling him to end it, like the attack, telling him to make Donald Trump stop it because it was bad optics.
Just because of the optics?
No,
just because of the optics?
That's all it was. They were just saying this looks bad. This makes his legacy look
bad.
This
is bad. This is hurting his legacy. Oh my God.
No. Laura Ingraham, she said, this was a text to Mark Meadows. She said, "Hey, Mark, the president needs to tell people in the Capitol to go home. This is hurting all of us. He's destroying his legacy."
Ingram.
She only cares about optics.
She is so incredibly putrid.
I hate her.
Like, it's kind of crazy. If you look at the Fox News primetime slots, you'd think Tucker is the worst, but honestly, it gets worse as you go on. Maybe not with Hannity, but Laura Ingraham is absolutely putrid. If you don't recall, a couple months ago, she had that clip go like viral where she had this one dude on who talks about military dogs and how you only feed them at night and how you need to keep poor people hungry. She's horrible. She is a demon.
She is the actual worst. I hate Laura Ingraham. They all suck.
If she's telling you to chill, you better chill. It's kind of like last week where if you disagree with Kayleigh McEnany, you maybe have gone a little too far right, even for Republican standards.
If Laura Ingram's telling you to calm down, dog, you've done something crazy. But yeah, so also I know Sean Hannity also texted Mark Meadows something along similar lines, like, hey, this needs to stop, like this looks really bad, that kind of thing. And all this really reveals is what we kind of already assumed, which was that the Trump White House knew the severity of what was going on, and they knew Trump could have stopped it, but he didn't. So like it just shows that they were aware of what was going on, and they were perceiving it. They knew exactly what was happening, but they didn't do anything.
Yeah, it's more about his like complacency in the riot.
Yeah, but again, this is what we already knew, so I guess that's why it's not like as notable news. You know
True.
What I mean? You know what I mean? All right, I think it's I think it's time to prep you all for the holidays.
Time for the holidays. We got a fun one to start off.
We got a really fun one.
If any of you have been are chronically online like we are,
this one is if you want to debate your chronically online uncles
and have been aware of the discourse going on Twitter in the last week surrounding slurs.
Yeah,
then this one's for you.
So, cracker is a slur.
Yeah.
That is the rhetoric that's been going on recently. Is that cracker? The word cracker is a slur. The C word, if you will.
Like, me and Jeremy are crackers. Mm-hmm. That's a slur.
Yeah, cracker is a slur.
Absolutely insane. And if you don't know the background behind this, Twitch, like the streaming platform, I'm sure maybe you all know about like Hasanabi, the streamer, popular leftist streamer. He just got banned for like making fun of his chat, calling people in his chat crackers, because Twitch changed their TOS, or I guess they're blanketly enforcing their terms of service to include any slurs.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a weird line. It's kind of a really weird line to draw to say that cracker is a slur akin to the N-word.
Right.
Like, what?
When they haven't even been consistent in banning people that say the N-word on the platform.
Exactly. They don't do any of that shit. And it's like, it's weird. Hassan's white, too. Which is another. Hassan's white calling other white people crackers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you going to ban any rap song off the platform?
And here's the thing. Is cracker a slur by definition?
Sure.
I guess.
I suppose if you're going to be one of those pedantic motherfuckers who starts off their essays with Merriam-Webster defines slur as
right. Like like if any derogatory word can be a slur, then I guess cracker is a slur. By definition it is. But by no means does that mean it holds the same weight as words that have been built to dehumanize people and stem from systematic oppression.
In no way is cracker akin to any of like the N-word, the F slur, the R slur, any of that shit.
No, cracker. The word cracker does not stem from a system of oppression in which white people were treated as lesser than humans.
Exactly.
Like, so there's no way within context that word can be treated as like what I would define as actually being a slur, if that makes sense.
And it's also just an absurd term too. Like, it's so funny. It is so funny. Are you going to ban people for calling somebody a mayo monkey?
Right.
What about that one TikTok account that goes through and just like gathers all the different terms for white people?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
If this goes on TikTok, we might get banned. Hey, look, if there's anyone out here listening, as one cracker to whatever you are, you have the pass. You have the pass.
You got it. We can give out the cracker passes now.
We're giving you the pass. One cracker to whatever you identify,
exactly.
or whatever your identity group is. You got the pass now. You could say it.
And it's like the other thing is Twitch won't even ban people for saying the R slur. Like that's an accepted term on the platform, yet you can't just call somebody a cracker.
Mm-mm.
The only people like actually mad about this, not mad about like the ban and the terms of service, mad about people saying cracker are just white kids who want to say the N-word really, 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 really bad.
Oh my God. No, and that was the other point I was going to make is like this isn't a pass to just go be mean to white people.
Yeah.
Like obviously you should like it is disrespectful.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't classify it as racist. But also what I was going to say is that this kind of rhetoric saying like cracker is a slur gets you very close to the kind of rhetoric that goes along the lines of white people are being oppressed. Which gets you dangerously, dangerously close to some Nazi shit.
Facts.
Because
very close to white replacement.
Yeah, that gets you very close to what Nazis have always said, which is like, the white race, the white purity is being threatened.
Yeah.
Which is like
very close to what Tucker Carlson actively says.
Exactly. It leads directly into white supremacy tendencies, which you should stay away from.
Yes,
in my opinion.
Please.
In my opinion.
Yeah, in our humble opinions here at In the Office, we do not endorse white supremacy.
Like, cracker by definition, it's a slur, but in the same way that like Karen is a slur or hillbilly is a slur.
Bro, you remember people were trying to do that though?
Yeah.
People actually tried to make Karen a slur.
Which again, by the own rules that we've set up,
it is. Sure.
But it by no means does it speak to any kind of systematic oppression of a group of people.
Definitionally, yes, it is a slur. Colloquially, not even close. No shot that has any of the weight that any of the other words we've alluded to have.
Yeah.
It's not even close. It's just a mean thing.
And that's the definitive take on this issue.
Facts.
You don't have to go anywhere else.
Right. I'm confident in that.
Go nowhere else looking for information. This is the correct interpretation of the data.
Or you can go on Twitter and just look because it's really funny to look and see all the things that people have said. All the memes about it have been really good.
The C word discourse really made my day. But again, if you're watching this as a non-white person, I'll give you the pass. You can say it. Say the C word. Go for it.
Call me a cracker.
Nobody can get mad at you. I'll give you the pass. All right, moving on to our next issue. Something a little bit more substantial, something that actually matters.
Next up, it's kind of like actual news, kind of like just a pervasive issue that's been going on.
Yeah, so I want to go through a little bit of the framing first before we get into the actual data. Yeah. So lately there's been a lot of talk about a crime wave, which has been like sweeping over the nation. You know, like if you step foot in LA, you're literally going to die.
It's been sweeping over the nation, although they only talk about it in the context of LA and Chicago.
Yeah, LA, Chicago.
It's coming to your North Carolinian suburb.
LA, Chicago, Detroit, Philadelphia. I wonder why.
Yeah.
I wonder what the demographics are.
Yeah.
Wonder what the demographics are there. But if you have an uncle, at your holiday feast, whatever you may be.
Uncles, aunts, whatever.
Yeah,
whatever kind of an extended family that just wants the smoke.
Uncle, aunt, dad, cousin that thinks they just understand.
Facts.
They're coming at you saying like crime is sweeping across the nation. It's the Democrats' fault. Mm-hmm. We got some news for them. The crime wave rhetoric is just fucking lie. It's just lies.
Yeah, I mean, it's lies in the rhetoric, but okay, we'll get into the stats.
It's a very nuanced conversation, but the main thing to understand here is that with the framing, there's a lot of fear mongering going on, and it's not just conservatives doing it because I've seen liberal channels doing it as well. But I want to get into a couple of these articles I saw actually from the Wall Street Journal, the Bezos Street Journal. Really,
that shit was putrid.
Yeah, WSJ. First one, it says the title actually is "Blame Voters for the Rising Crime Rate."
Wall Street Journal opinion articles are horrible. They are some of the most conservative pieces of journalism you will ever read. Oh my God.
Was the Wall Street Journal this conservative before Jeff Bezos bought it?
I don't know. Usually, it's like a lot of the actual publications that they do are pretty liberal. They are hardline neoliberal, but their opinion pieces can be putrid.
Yeah, a lot. Some of the articles we've talked on this show about have just been from the Wall Street Journal.
Some of the worst articles on the show.
Anyways, this one titled "Blame Voters for the Rising Crime Rate." A quote from it says, "For the stressed out voters in your political life, an amorphism to print and wrap in ribbon for Christmas giving is live and learn. Though, in these crime-sodden times, it might need revision to die and learn."
Shut the fuck up. No way. No shot.
That literal
to die and learn.
Yeah,
this dude has a Harvard degree too in journalism or some shit, and this is the level that he's writing at.
Bro is saying words like amorphism. He's got a Harvard degree.
Bro says words like amorphism and then writes something as corny as "you may need to change live and learn to die and learn." It sounds like an 80s movie trailer.
Yeah. No, he's literally saying we usually say live and learn, but now I guess you have to say die and learn. Because if you're in LA, you're going to die. Another article titled, "Yes, the crime wave is as bad as you think."
Wow.
Quote from this article says, "The national homicide rate does not provide most Americans with the sense of danger they face. A handful of extremely safe Illinois suburbs may counterbalance Chicago's contribution to the national murder rate, but that's little consolation to those that live in Southside war zones."
God damn, that is so charged. That is so incredibly charged. I just want to take a second. Let's note the framing here. It's safe neighborhoods are counterbalancing the ones making things look better than they are. Dude said a handful of safe neighborhoods, as if it isn't just generally the south side of Chicago that's going crazy. Yeah, that's true. Instead of the reality that there is a handful of bad parts of these cities that are driving up the statistics. Mm-hmm. He's really saying that, there's only a couple safe places in Illinois. He didn't even say Chicago. He said Illinois. As a Illinois, bruh.
Yeah, he said you're a handful of extremely safe Illinois suburbs. As if that state is tiny with only a few suburbs.
Yeah. As if the state is just Southside Chicago. That's it.
Well, and he pretends as if those that live in Southside Chicago don't know the danger. Mm-hmm. I'm sure they've lived with it their entire lives.
And he pretends there are impediments for them to get out.
Yeah.
The whole time. You'll notice throughout this whole crime wave rhetoric is that they'll talk about these things. What about the people that aren't involved in the crime that live there? What are you doing other than trying to put literally everyone in the city in jail?
Yeah.
To uplift them out of poverty, to actually help their conditions going on there.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to get into. It's tough on crime policies only breed more crime in the future because they act to keep down the populations that needed the help in the first place. They only help the suburban middle class in that they deceive them into thinking they're more safe, when in in reality, nothing materially changed for them.
Yeah.
It's only they feel mentally more safe, which is like, it's something, yeah, you want to feel safe. You deserve to feel safe in your community, but they're being deceived.
Yeah.
And then that deception is manifesting in material harm for those who are already the most desperate and needy in society.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing about all of this framing is that, it's like once a year we get these like crime wave fear-mongering episodes that we get on like news channels and stuff, but they never talk about what actually causes crime.
Oh, yeah.
And we've said it hundreds of times on this pod. It's poverty.
Facts.
It is poverty that motivates crime, but we can't ever actually target the root cause of crime because if we do, that threatens capitalism and nobody's willing to do that.
People aren't stealing food when they don't need food.
Exactly.
Crazy thought, I know.
Like, people still do bad things. Like, you're never going to erase people doing bad things.
You still have, like, kleptos.
But, like, if people are in poverty, they're going to be more desperate. Poor communities are worse off because they're poorer. Yeah. Like, that's how it works.
Like, the solution is not to put somebody who stole, like, $20 worth of groceries in jail for a year.
Yeah.
That's not the solution.
What about the person at the top of the corporation that steals wages from me every day?
Exactly, and we'll get into that.
Yeah.
We still got more on that later.
That's the kind of crime that really matters. But,
Thanks.
Of course, Fox News is one of the channels that's, all up in arms about crime.
Incredibly putrid.
They're just going off about... I haven't even watched Fox News that much recently, but I'm sure, like, at least half of their broadcast is dedicated
I haven't
to
either.
the crime
I've seen
wave.
a bunch of clips, though, and it's wild. I think they had, like, was it the L.A. or San Francisco chief of police that said, "Don't come here, it is not safe for you."
Yeah.
I think they had him on or something, like, last week, and that shit was horrible.
And they just play on repeat the same clip of, like, a few people robbing a Walgreens or something.
No, and that's the thing. Another thing that I wanted to talk about that I was reading about in this LA Times article, it's not really that shoplifting has increased. It's that the public-facing side of it has increased. There are more security cameras. There are more people with phones with handheld recordings in their pocket that are recording these acts happen. We are perceiving more crime. There isn't really more crime broadly when we look at the trends.
It's literally just a media-driven farce because they know that if they make the white suburban moms feeling more unsafe, the more afraid you feel, the more likely you are to act in a conservative manner and vote in a conservative manner. Because, and it's not just like something about, being human that when you're afraid you act more conservative, but it's just the fact that Republicans are able to utilize this kind of outrage about crime much more efficiently than Democrats ever are able to. And when you're in a state of fear, you're going to look to someone that's fear-mongering.
Facts.
And then you end up voting for those people.
You're going to look for people who you perceive can protect you. And you're not really going to think about the material harm that these policies may cause to the communities of the people who commit the crime, because the people who are committing the crime are framed as monsters rather than people that need help.
And the party that should be speaking for those people that are being framed as monsters is incredibly weak. And the party that's framing them as monsters is incredibly good at what they do. So when you get that combination, we get the rise of far-right leaders like Donald Trump.
But anyway, let's dive into some actual crime wave statistics.
You may be asking, is a crime wave real?
What's actually happening?
Is it real?
What's going on? Has there been an increase in crime? I'll tell you yes, but no.
Ooh.
I will tell you yes.
A nuanced
but no.
answer.
Exactly. According to the Council on Criminal Justice, across the 22 cities that they studied, which included places like Chicago, Detroit, and Philly, in the first half of 2021, murders rose 16% from the rate in 2020, and from 2019 to 2020, there was the greatest jump in a single year since the 1960s at 25%.
Oh.
Scary stuff, right?
Scary stuff.
Very scary stuff. What notable events happened in 2020 that could lead to changes in the material conditions that would lead to something like this?
I wonder if millions of people lost their jobs.
Exactly.
I wonder if COVID ravaged the country.
Maybe. Who knows, though? Not me, for sure. Even with recorded increases in homicides, we still just barely inch past 50% of the total homicide rate in the 90s.
Oh, yeah. Just in general, I forgot to mention this before, but just in general, the crime rate has been dropping for decades.
And that's the point in me saying yes, but no.
Yeah.
Because ever since the 90s, we have been on a steady decline for, I think, most every crime. At least the two things broadly that I looked at here are homicide and larceny.
Yeah.
Those things have all been declining. Right? Since the 90s, they've broadly been declining at a steady rate. And it isn't until the pandemic strikes where we see these things spiking again.
I mean, and it's normal in a time of not only economic crisis, but also a pandemic. It's normal for crime to go up.
Yeah.
And it's not only, I don't know if you have this in here later, but it's not only the pandemic, but also during the holiday season, crime just goes up normally. That happens every single year.
That's true.
I don't know specifically why, but it's just how it goes.
I mean, shit, I would just imagine people are desperate to get things for, like, their family. People in poorer communities are desperate to do that shit.
And it's not only, like, the holidays, but also we see a spike in crime in the summer because it's warmer out, more people are outside, more people are interacting. That's just how it goes as well.
And it's like
general trends.
Yeah, and no, literally, that's how the data has gone. We have seen spikes in summer of 2020 and summer of 2021. I wonder if it's eases in lockdowns that are correlating with this.
Yeah.
And I'm not like a correlation equals causation guy, but there's a pretty strong causation from the pandemic that would reasonably lead to an increase in homicides and larceny.
When it comes to large-scale socioeconomic issues like crime, there's going to be a lot of things causing them. Mm-hmm. But when we say poverty motivates crime, we're saying that the largest indicator of where crime is going to happen is poverty.
Facts.
And the largest cause of crime is poverty.
Yeah.
And so unless you address that underlying socioeconomic issue of poverty, crime is going to get worse and it's going to continue to happen. And it's only going to be exacerbated and highlighted during a time of crisis like a pandemic and an economic, not collapse, but shutdown.
And I mean, let's talk about the homicides that do happen in these places.
Okay.
In Chicago, Detroit, and Philly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, they're not like Jeffrey Dahmer's running around. It's gang violence.
I don't know, dog. The Wall Street Journal said it's a war zone.
It's a war zone. And I mean, like, sure, Chirac, baby.
Die and
you
learn.
Call it that. You can call it Chirac, just like many people do. But it's gang violence. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And what motivates gang violence? What causes gang violence? It's the history of systemic racism in this country.
Yeah.
That's why that's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that these people are individually monsters and they just want to go out there and kill people.
Right.
It's that they've been bred into this system that has systemically disadvantaged them at every single turn.
Yeah, and this happened not only, I think we've talked about this before on the pod, but this has happened not only with Black Americans, but it's happened with the Irish and Italian immigrants that came over here around the 20s, I think. They formed gangs because they were treated as non-white.
Exactly.
They were treated as non-white, and they were forced into what was basically impoverished neighborhoods, into ghettos, and they formed gangs.
Facts.
Because that's what happens when you're in poverty.
That's what you do when you need to survive.
Yes.
When everything is stacked against you, that's what you do. And it's like, here's another thing I wanted to get into. Yes, there has been an increase in murders in these last 2 years.
Uh-huh.
It is alarming. But also, that's not what we're disputing.
Mm-hmm.
We're not disputing that this is happening. We're disputing the rhetoric that people are using to describe this.
Yeah.
We're disputing the fear-mongering.
The framing.
That people are... The framing, exactly. We're disputing people on Fox News, people Tucker Carlson, saying that the violence in Chicago is indicative of what you're going to experience in Tribeca.
Right.
You know?
Right, like if you're in your middle class, upper class white neighborhood.
Facts.
As if someone's going to storm into your neighborhood and literally murder you.
No, literally, they act like drive-bys happen in Royal Oak.
Right, they act like if you go into like Hollywood Hills in LA, you're literally going to die.
It's as if...
Like you go into Beverly Hills in LA, you're going to get shot and killed. Like,
facts.
No, like it's so unlikely. And the framing of this is just meant to scare you.
Or even Wyoming.
Yeah. Yeah.
They act like anything happens in Wyoming.
Honestly, you're more likely to get killed by the person they're not describing in Wyoming than the person that they are.
I think you were probably more likely to get killed by a falling vending machine in Wyoming than you are to be killed by any sort of like gang violence.
You're probably more likely to get killed by your average Texan white man.
Probably.
Oh my goodness.
So then we've got the Council on Criminal Justice also said in this very report that like everybody's citing when it comes to crime wave that we should not let this obfuscate holding police accountable. They said it directly, like this isn't supposed to get in the way. This is simply just like the raw data. Ooh. There are other things that we need to do. This is not a condemnation on defund the police.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because that's where all of this rhetoric is pointing. Everyone's saying, "Oh, it's the LA police budget going down." That's why it's like, yeah, okay, the LA police budget went down a little bit.
Yeah,
it went down a little bit. One of the only precincts in the country to actually lower the budget.
Yeah. And like there's like various theories within the field of political science that say anytime there's some sort of like large scale revolution calling for change in any area, which in our case would be police departments, defund the police, that kind of rhetoric with Black Lives Matter. There's a theory that like anytime there is those kinds of popular revolutions, there's always going to be some kind of counter revolution.
Yeah.
And because every conflict that we experience is a culture war conflict nowadays.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised that this kind of issue, this conflict that's happening right now, is taking place through cultural means. It's just taking place on like our news networks. It's taking place like in the halls of Congress. Like none of it's actual physical violence other than, you know, like police brutalizing people. But the counter revolution is them getting on Fox News and scaring white suburban moms into voting for like Donald Trump when he runs in 2024.
That's actually crazy.
It's an extension of the culture war, and this is their version of the counter revolution, saying that, well, crime is going up 1 trillion %, so we need to fund the police even more.
Even though the LA police budget had increased over the course of, I want to say, the last 5 years, and every year that it increased, crime generally went up.
Yeah.
What's the deal with that?
The New York Police Department could literally run a coup in Latin America.
6th largest military in the world, I think. I think that might be a little outdated. I think it might have got bumped down to like 7th, 8th, or 9th, but still, like, that is crazy.
Yeah.
That is insane.
They could literally run a coup.
Facts.
In like Chile right now.
But that's just like the homicide and murder side of things.
Right.
Another big part of it is shoplifting in like LA specifically, which is a weird thing to like hyper fixate on. But it's not that weird when you think about how they're just trying to scare people in Beverly Hills.
Right.
They're just trying to get all of them to donate to the Senate Leadership Fund.
Right.
Anyway.
I'm about to prove them right when they're saying leftists are committing all kinds of crime.
Exactly.
I'm about to prove them right.
I'm about to say no ethical means of consumption.
I'm looking at you, Walmart.
So, yeah, facts. So you'll hear people saying things like shoplifting is increasing or Rite Aid, Walgreens are shutting down. When in reality, Walgreens doesn't take any real losses from shoplifting. It's built into their budget. And a lot of the Walgreens that are closing in New York, which nobody wants to talk about. And that's not even because of shoplifting.
Yeah.
That's not even because of alleged increase in shoplifting. It's because real estate is so fucking expensive in New York.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, that is a function of a completely different issue that is on the side of capital.
No, yeah, like you said, shoplifting is always accounted for in their budget. They're never taking like record losses because of shoplifting.
Not at all.
And nobody ever talks about the real theft, wage theft. When they steal from their employees literally all the time. I'm pretty sure that wage theft is like the largest form of theft in the United States.
It is. And you want to know what we're going to do right now?
What, we're going to dive into that?
We're going to talk about wage theft.
Let's do it.
We're going to talk a little bit about wage theft. So, for example, in 2012 alone, property theft totaled $341 million. Crazy, right? That's a lot of property being stolen.
That's a lot of property.
You want to know, this isn't even like wage theft. There was $933 million worth of like dues that employers as a whole had to pay out to employees for like wage theft.
Oh my God.
But that's only through the court of law.
Yeah.
That is only people who had the wherewithal and the money to actually take their claims to court and actually like win their lawsuits.
I would bet that like less than 10% of workers that have their wages stolen actually like go through with the lawsuit all the way.
There are far more people who have their wages stolen from them every single day with their boss like, hey, don't clock in, but come and talk to me about this real quick.
Yeah, no, that is wage theft. If you're clocking in overtime, not getting paid overtime, that is wage theft. If you're doing any work past the clock when you're not getting paid, that is wage theft.
If you're doing absolutely anything at work not clocked in, that is wage theft.
Yeah.
That is 1,000% wage theft. If you clock out and your boss is like, hey, can you come here and talk to me? Don't talk to him. Go back and clock back in. Yeah. Or else that is a literal wage theft. And that's the part that can't be accounted for. Wage theft is literally the largest form of theft in America. And that's not me speculating. I don't have the exact numbers, but it is.
No, it's just true.
It's literally a Google search away. I would implore you to Google it right now listening to this.
But that is just treated as a cost of having an efficient capitalist system.
Exactly.
That is not treated as an actual problem. But when shoplifting goes up like 0.2% in the country, I don't even know if that's true, but like
it's not.
If shoplifting even goes down, people go absolutely crazy,
fucking buck wild
on their news networks, on places like Fox News. But no one ever talks about, and you know, Fox News, they claim to be working class heroes. They never talk about how workers get their wages stolen and like their benefits stolen all the time. They don't care about that. They praised the Better.com CEO for what he did.
Yes.
They don't care about the working class. They care about corporations.
And it's crazy because even speaking more to the issue of wage theft, let's use Target as an example because Target has some pretty egregious policies when it comes to shoplifting.
Every Target in America got burnt down during the Black Lives Matter.
So true. Yeah, Target doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, no.
But anyway, if they did, they would have some pretty egregious policies. So if you guys weren't aware, Target's not a great store to steal from because they will let you get away with your theft, and they have these tracking systems that will track your theft until you get to $500. You want to know why?
So they can hit you with a fine?
So they can hit you with grand larceny.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, instead of just regular larceny, they will hit you with grand larceny.
Wow.
They'll wait.
That's a big brain. That's a Megamind 4D chess move right there.
That's kind of wild. And grand larceny a lot harsher sentence than regular larceny. That's what they're putting on people who steal anything up to $500, right?
Oh, my goodness.
How accountable are they held?
Not at all.
Whenever they do wage theft.
Oh, not at all.
You know what they have to do?
What do they have to do?
They have to pay out the dues they didn't originally pay.
Oh, they just have to pay the wages they didn't give?
Pretty sure.
Oh, my God.
And maybe a couple court fees. They have to pay their lawyers, but in paying their lawyers, they're fighting against it, so that's just a regular thing.
It's like, dog, even if I get paid the wages that you didn't pay me, I'm still poor.
Facts. The point is, these businesses are not held accountable for their wage theft. And people love to talk about how theft is so fucking wild. Theft is running rampant. It is in the corporate world.
Yeah.
And that is more insidious because it is wage theft that leads to bad wages. Who would have thought? And those bad wages then lead to people needing, it necessitates that people commit actual theft to survive.
How come if some poor father steals some bread from his local Target, he is a criminal?
Yes.
But Elon Musk is a hero.
What if
Why is that?
Some poor single mother is actively being wage thefted. Their company is withholding overtime pay from her, overtime pay that she needs to pay for food that week.
Yeah.
So she can't pay for food. What does she have to do? She needs to go steal it. She goes and steals it from a Walmart, say. Mm-hmm. The company actively necessitated that. They are literally extorting you.
Yes.
They have created the problem, and then their solution to the problem is tough on crime policies. It is extortion in the purest sense of the word.
You may be saying, like, well, there's a whole lot of social services for low-income people. First of all, no.
No.
Really
yeah,
isn't.
no.
But even if I accept your premise, the fact is that those social services are being funded by our taxpayer dollars, middle-class people, which means we are subsidizing Walmart, stealing the wages from their employees.
Oh, my God. Let's talk about Walmart.
Okay.
Let's talk about Walmart's wage theft practices.
You're on the chopping block, my guy.
Walmart will not hire you for longer than 29 and a half hours a week, will not hire regular associates.
So they don't have to give you benefits?
So they do not have to pay you full-time benefits. Yeah. And so in doing that, they have seminars telling their employees how to apply for food stamps.
Yeah.
Walmart is actively being indirectly subsidized by the government to support their low wages.
Yeah.
Their wages that necessitate theft. They are creating the issue.
Yes.
Like, I can't get around that. It's ridiculous. But anyways.
They are extorting you, forcing you to be criminals, starving you, and we all treat that as the modus operandi of the capitalist system. Yes. It doesn't have to be that way.
Not at all.
It's ridiculous.
But I digress. Let's get into actually, like, shoplifting.
Okay.
What people are talking about right now.
We deviated a little bit from our path.
Yeah, what you hear on Fox News on the TV downstairs. Mm-hmm. That's what we're going to talk about right now. So shoplifting, surprise, surprise, generally going down, even in places like California.
Yeah, I wonder if, like, crazy. All the stores closing down, people not going around as much because of COVID. I wonder if that contributed at all.
Yeah. The FBI statistics state that larceny has steadily declined a total of 16% between 2010 and 2019. And then it goes up again in 2020. Crazy. But even speaking to it going up, locally in LA specifically, because again, that's what places have been focusing on. In LA, property crime is up 2.6% from 2020, which is still lower than it was in 2019.
What is classified as property crime?
Property theft? Just like stealing, like anything.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just generally like stealing. Mm-hmm. And personal theft is down 32% from 2019.
That's a lot of percent.
That's a lot of percent that it is down from 2019.
Yeah.
Crazy. And you want to know where their numbers are from?
Where are they from?
The LAPD.
The LAPD people.
The LAPD people. The same people that are telling you that it is too unsafe to come here. We cannot keep you safe.
You are gonna die if you step foot in LA.
Wild. Just the cognitive dissonance. Not even cognitive dissonance because they know what they're doing. Just the difference in rhetoric.
If you step foot in LA, you're literally going to die. You're going to have your clothes stolen off of your back.
Yeah.
And you are going to die.
And again, I just implore you to think about what happened in 2020 and is still going on in 2021 right now that has put a lot of people in a bad spot to maybe they need to go and commit property crimes.
Yeah. In the simplest analysis, people are struggling. They're going to be desperate and do desperate things.
Exactly.
Like, it's like, why is this so difficult to understand for people?
And I wonder if in California specifically, there was an abnormal amount of people facing eviction from COVID. I'm just starting to wonder. I wonder if there's a abnormal amount of homeless people in California that kind of need to survive.
Yeah. And, I always hear these kind of arguments where it's like, well, I mean, you may be impoverished, you may feel like you need to steal, but why are you killing people?
Yeah.
And it's like, do you know what kind of culture gets built around poor communities? Like, once you start having to commit crime in order to survive, and you grow up in a life of crime, you're denied educational opportunities, your parents are denied job opportunities, you have to find different ways to build community and survive when you're already starving. Of course you're going to be pushed to a life of crime. Are you dumb?
And it's like, don't get me wrong. Don't get us wrong, specifically. Don't get the official head in the office statement wrong.
That's right.
That's not an excuse. It's an explanation.
Yes.
I obviously still condemn these things.
Oh, yeah.
You shouldn't go out and shoplift. You especially shouldn't go out and kill people. Wild thought, I know. But this is an explanation.
Yeah.
We're talking about things on a societal level, not an individual level here.
Yeah, we're just big systems guys.
Exactly.
I just be thinking
systems tinkers.
I be thinking in systems. Of course, we're not endorsing murder.
Facts.
Don't go and murder.
Please do not go and do that.
But there are reasons these things happen.
Exactly. There are explanations.
Conservatives ultimately want to convince you it's a race-based issue.
That, and they ultimately just want to boil everything down to the individual.
Yes.
Because to conservatives, that is the unit. They operate on units of the individual, because when they do that, that's the only way that they can justify their worldview.
Yeah.
If they'd have one negative experience with a black person, or hear about one negative experience with a black person, that in their mind justifies hatred towards an entire race, because again, they can't think past the individual.
Yeah, and also in addition to that, because they can't think past the individual, they have a hard time denying that these racial hierarchies do exist.
Exactly.
In terms of like, white people on average making more money than black families do.
Just
black families being incarcerated more often. Yeah. They are aware these hierarchies exist, but they justify that by being racist and sexist and misogynistic, because they can't actually challenge what in society causes these systems to exist.
Yeah.
Because that challenges their own privilege.
And it's interesting because unless they're like a fucking annoying libertarian, they're not using any actual statistics, even though the libertarian statistics are flawed and stupid anyway and often out of context. They're using anecdotes.
Bear accumulation problem.
Now that shit is funny.
Look it up if you don't know about it.
Look up the bear accumulation problem. Anyways, most of what you hear on Fox News is just simple anecdotes.
Or it's just lies. Or they literally because I've been watching Fox News before and fact checked them on my own, and they literally just lie.
Especially primetime.
Yeah,
especially Tucker Carlson.
They just lie. Like they just and they always preface it with like, "This is true," and then they just completely make something up.
Like, oh shit, this must be true then.
Yeah,
I trust you, Tucker. This must be true.
Like when Tucker Carlson was like, "This is true. Getting COVID makes you more feminine."
That shit was so fucking funny, dude. Oh my god. I guess that's me then.
People like Tucker Carlson, they just make things up and then call it true.
I'm pretty sure bro said something like, "Yeah, just being sick is a very feminine trait." Well, shit, dog. Like
the feminine urge to get sick.
Call me yassified then. Holy shit.
I've been fully yassified. The feminine urge to get sick and have COVID.
I better hide my handicap plaque from Tucker Carlson. Yeah, exactly. Or else he might think I'm a woman.
The feminine urge to be disabled.
Anyways, back to the crime wave. There's like a third component about this that you don't see talked much about when they're talking about the crime wave, but you do hear about a lot, and that is drug use. Mm-hmm. A lot of it's like people shitting on like the war gun policies, but to be fair, Fox News hasn't talked about them as much as I thought that they would be talking about them.
Probably because nothing bad happened.
Exactly. Probably because only good things happen when you decriminalize drugs.
Yeah.
But hey, whoa, that's a conversation for another day.
Because maybe we shouldn't treat addiction like a crime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Facts. Maybe addiction should not be criminal. And I just wanted to say that they act like rich suburban, not even rich, just upper middle class white people don't consume drugs at a rate equivalent to or higher than those in poor communities.
No, drug use the rates are like exactly the same.
Exactly. What's crazy though is the rate of like prosecution.
Yeah. Oh, one of the most baffling statistics I've ever seen is that marijuana use between white and black people is about the same.
Yeah.
It's about 50-50, about the exact same. But prosecution rates are 80-20.
Oh, yeah.
Black people are prosecuted 80% of the time for marijuana possession. White people 20% of the time. Like, that is insane.
Continuing to speak to that, cocaine and crack, pharmacologically the same drug. I've talked about this a bunch, but in case you're new here, cocaine and crack are the same drug. The only difference is purity. Pharmacologically, chemically, they are the same. One has an added salt group, which makes it insoluble in some shit. Like, you can't smoke it. That's it. That is it. They're the same. One's cheaper, one's expensive. One's consumed by poor black people, one is consumed by rich white people.
You can draw the lines. You can connect the dots.
I wonder what the sentencing disparity is.
Yeah.
It's like, oh God, fuck. I think it's like it used to be historically 40-1, and now it's lowered to like 16-1. Meaning crack is sentenced, I think, 16 times harder than cocaine is.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong; those numbers I think are a little off, but the general sentiment still remains.
Yes. Yeah. No. The general trend still remains.
Exactly.
The only difference is prominence in different communities.
Yeah, Obama said that he fixed it. No, he did not fix it. He just made it less bad, but it is still very bad.
To be fair, it takes a long time to fix that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say is it's codified racism that you can solve.
Yeah. All this dude needed to do was just make us so that their sentence the same. But I understand, like, the fucking criminal justice, the racist lobbies wouldn't let him do that. And what I think, they shouldn't even be sentenced the same. They shouldn't be sentenced at all.
Right.
Because again, we should not criminalize addiction.
Yeah. There's an old like John Mulaney skit where he was talking about like legalizing marijuana.
Yeah.
And he said something along the lines of like, yeah, I don't know what state he was in, might have been California. He's like, yeah, it's legal now, and all the white people cheered, and he's like, it's always been legal for you.
Yeah.
Like it's never been illegal for white people to smoke marijuana. In the same way, it's usually not illegal for white people to consume most drugs. Yeah. But when it's a black person or any person of color that's addicted to drugs or using them and the cops find them, they're always treated as criminals.
Yes.
Rather than people that are simply victims of addiction.
If you have just a joint on you, you are treated as a horrible criminal. You're treated like Jeffrey Dahmer. You are treated worse than Jeffrey Dahmer.
You're treated worse than Jeffrey Epstein was.
Oh, shit.
You're treated worse than like the most prolific sex trafficker of all time.
Facts. Child sex trafficker of all time.
Maybe you shouldn't have had marijuana on you. Random lower class person.
Literally, dude. That's all that shit boils down to.
Oh my goodness. I think that probably wraps it up on crime.
That wraps it up for the crime wave this week at least.
All right, then speaking of Yassified.
Ooh.
I want to talk about
feminization.
I wanted to talk about a topic that we have not really touched on the pod.
There haven't been many opportunities to talk about it, in the news at least.
I want to talk about toxic masculinity.
It's just bad.
And also all the rhetoric around like men in this generation becoming weak or like more feminine.
Yeah.
And I think that, we hear a lot of this rhetoric. And it's always treated like, men are becoming more feminine, women are, taking over male roles in the workplace, in the house.
Yeah.
And, maybe this rhetoric isn't new. Maybe it's been around for a long time. But it feels like there's been a sharp increase, especially from like our elected officials.
It feels like there's been a sharp increase in contrast, like you said, about how there are always counter movements.
Yeah.
Because people are starting to see more men painting their nails. You're starting to see more people wear pearls. Like I wear pearls now.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe it does fit into that framework how there's always a counter revolution to a revolution.
Yeah.
And even though this one is purely cultural, like it's not even a culture war issue, at least not in the beginning, it becomes a culture war issue because the right literally can't handle you challenging any social hierarchy at all.
Literally.
But we're the triggered ones.
They eat facts. I'm the triggered one because I think it's cool. I think my pearl bracelet is cool, and I just want to wear it, and that's it.
Yeah, we're the snowflakes for letting dudes dress up however they want.
Literally, for not giving a shit what the fuck you wear.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of this rhetoric falls under the umbrella of toxic masculinity and also misogyny.
Oh, 1,000%.
Because these trends are always blamed on women.
They go hand in hand.
100% of the time. But what I mean when I say toxic masculinity is just a set of behaviors and traits that tend to be like a distortion of what it means to be manly.
Yeah.
It's often accompanied with things like being overly aggressive, never showing emotion, being disrespectful towards women, and that being like cool.
Actively putting down like any female things. Like, yeah, I don't like to go shopping. I only like beer and man things and cars and shit.
Yeah, and also like being just generally disrespectful or exclusionary to men that like paint their nails, for example, and treating them harsher.
Quote unquote more feminine men.
Acting always tough, that kind of thing. And it's toxic masculinity because ultimately all these behaviors harm men, not only individually but also on a systemic level as well.
Oh yeah, and the dudes that love to act in a counter-revolutionary way towards feminists, like the meninists out there, they always love to talk about like divorce court statistics, which overwhelmingly favor women, even though they're one of the only things in society that actually favor women.
Right.
Divorce court statistics and male suicide rates, even though they don't realize that it is toxic masculinity, the problem that men created, that is driving the higher suicide rates amongst men.
Also, every single issue that men are facing in society, at least if we're just talking about men generically, like not accounting for racial differences, whatever, all the issues men face can literally just be described in a class lens.
Oh, yeah.
can be described through class politics.
A little bit of historical materialism right
exactly.
there.
Like you can just like the all the issues that men are facing, like the high suicide rate, can literally just be accompanied for by talking about toxic masculinity and also class interests.
Yeah, no, 1,000%.
Like that's why you are being crushed.
It's
not because you're a man, but because you are a poor person.
Yeah, it's men putting these unnecessary burdens on themselves that they know deep down that they can never fulfill, and they're just constantly chasing. They're constantly pushing the rock up the hill.
Yeah.
They're Sisyphus. That's it.
Yeah, and common things you'll hear are things like, bring back manly men, or like men are becoming weak, or Western masculinity is being destroyed, usually by the left or by women.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's all a farce.
It's so
None
snowflakey.
of it's real.
It's so snowflakey,
it is
too.
snowflakey.
Like, unironically, it's like you are the snowflake. Why do you care what another man wears?
Right, yeah.
Like,
hang on.
Why are you getting triggered that I want to put on some pearls?
It's also, I want to mention, is also a key component of fascism almost every time, is hyper-masculinity.
Oh, yeah.
And which is often accompanied, or honestly just inherent to misogyny.
Yeah.
Like just being terrible
They're
to women.
two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, it's ultimately they lead to each other. But it's key for a lot of far-right movements. And even the far-right movements you can see in the United States. Yeah. I mean, just openly against women's right to like choose, women's right to have a high-paying job as well, women's right to just like not be sexually harassed in the workplace.
Well, yeah, because toxic masculinity just in itself actively perpetualize like misogynistic things. Like it is to be toxically masculine is to treat a woman as an object, to treat women specifically as sex objects to conquer, especially when you look at people who talk about toxic masculinity like Jordan Peterson talking about the Pareto principle, it's 10% of men 10% of men have 90% of the women, and then the rest of the ugly sluts are left for the 90% of you ugly motherfuckers, so you need to go to the gym and you need to do all these things. It's like, no, just be yourself.
How about, Jordan, you go and find some bitches?
How about you go get some bitches? How about you Pareto principle your way into some bitches?
Yeah, exactly. In this mindset, I want to add, like, in some men, if they're young guys, they've been indoctrinated by people like Jordan Peterson, they may think, like, this mindset is good.
No.
Like, it makes me more manly. But in reality, this mindset, or just being toxically masculine in general, contributes to those disproportionately high suicide rates. Yeah. It contributes to men not using mental health resources that they have access to. It contributes to men abusing alcohol and drugs more often than women do.
Because they're just trying to escape because of the burden they put on.
Yeah, in this society, we treat getting help as something that is like feminine.
It's weak and feminine, exactly. You're sick, you're feminine.
Exactly. And it only contributes, it contributes to upholding the hierarchies that are oppressing you.
Yeah.
Because the patriarchy oppresses women very obviously.
Yes.
But it also oppresses men by making them think that they need to be like tough and emotionally unavailable and super manly all the time, when in reality you can like just be yourself and get help for what you need.
Just cry, bro. It's okay.
Yeah, it's not that big of a deal.
It's okay.
Like, stop being a loser.
Facts, bro. It's okay to cry if a movie makes you sad. I teared up watching Spider-Man this week. I'm not going to tell you why.
No spoilers, though.
I'm not going to tell you why.
No spoilers.
But I did.
No spoilers.
I did.
No Spider-Man spoilers here.
Exactly. No.
But I also want to talk about something that I think goes hand in hand with toxic masculinity. And honestly, I think is like, at least in this context, it's a very recent trend that I think is just a manifestation of toxic masculinity. Yeah. And that's the Sigma grind set or Sigma mindset. Something we've also never talked about on the pod. And it honestly is like a thing that I've seen proliferate more among like young people.
Yeah.
But it honestly is like capitalized on by like middle-aged YouTubers, like men specifically.
No, it's kind of like pickup artists and shit, like Alpha M on YouTube.
Yeah.
Confession time.
Oh no.
When I was in 7th grade, a little insecure little boy Gage, I thought that some of the Alpha M videos were good. I was like, yeah, you got to be like cool, all this. I quickly grew out of it.
That's the thing, though, is that young dudes, because they grow up being taught, like, this is how men act, this is how women act, you are very easily swept into what is the right-wing pipeline.
No, facts.
And you are told that, like, you need to be disrespectful to women, you need to be stronger than them, you need to never show emotion, and it's just harmful to men. Because it leads you to never questioning the hierarchies that oppress you. Yeah. And you should. Because that's what men do. And that's like, what women do too. And that's what everyone that's cool does.
And it's like another weird trend that I've noticed is a lot of men, a lot of boys that were raised by single moms like myself end up falling into these traps because society puts this unnecessary burden on us to seek out what is masculine, to try and attain this status of masculinity. So I went to YouTube. I went to channels like Alpha M to try and find like, what do I need to do to be perceived like a man? Because I thought that I was too feminine because I was raised by women. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I suck out these I don't even know these places just to fulfill that need, that Sisyphean need to just be like a man. I need to be manly, and it led me down toxically masculine routes until I eventually fell out of it, obviously.
Yeah.
But still, it's like that's why you see so many people that you wouldn't expect fall into those pipelines. Like why are men raised by women? Looking at women like they're nothing, you know what I mean? Looking at women like they're less than, because they found these dudes, because we are taught to only look at dudes as smart, as intelligent. Those are what you need to listen to. You're a young boy, you need to listen to a man to figure out what you need to be.
Yeah,
it's
why
ridiculous.
Ultimately, this absurd idea of masculinity we have is destructive for men. It only serves to harm men and keep them from questioning the social hierarchies they're exposed to. And once you actually start analyzing what masculinity and femininity really is, you start to realize that these are arbitrary quantifiers that don't matter.
They're unattainable. And the more you try to fit into those rigid quantifiers, the more you, one, fall into gender roles, which are also actively oppressing, and two, fall into more anti-LGBTQ circles.
Yes.
You can't ascribe to rigid definitions of masculinity and be pro-trans.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because then if you do that, you can't make room in your head for that and understanding that gender is a spectrum.
Yeah.
Which it is scientifically, like it just is.
Yeah. Like gender roles at this point and all of the labels we ascribe around masculinity and femininity, they're arbitrary.
Horrible.
They've always been arbitrary. And you hear people on the right always make the argument like, well, men were the hunters, women were the gatherers. It's like, yeah,
it's
hundreds
a little more
of years
complicated
ago,
than that,
thousands of years ago, maybe. And yeah, of course, it's more nuanced than that. But at this point, why does it matter? It doesn't. Like these gender roles are completely arbitrary.
Yeah.
And like I know people are just gonna haters are just gonna watch this section and be like, well, yeah, you guys are just like yassified men.
Facts.
And it's
I am.
Like I literally don't like.
That's fine.
The roles that we think are necessary for men and women to fall into are completely arbitrary. And they only serve to perpetuate men and women domination under capitalism.
Yeah.
And we don't need it anymore.
Facts, 1,000%.
It'd be much more freeing to just be like, yeah, express yourself however you'd like, and society will support whatever you choose to pursue. But we can't do that.
And that's what it should be, because it's kind of snowflakey to give a shit what other people do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You know what the real Sigma thing to do is? Respect women.
Exactly. It's Sigma to respect trans people and respect women.
Anyway, getting back to Sigmas, I want to talk a little bit more about this.
Okay.
Sigmas are usually described as men that are hyper-focused on their goals. They get, like, exhausted by, like, non-ambitious people.
Yeah.
And small talk, usually. They want to only talk about their interests. They want to avoid the rules and bend the rules. And they have a dislike for, like, routines and emotionally opening up to people, that kind of stuff. And honestly, I've seen the take that, like, Sigma behavior just describes autism
They're just
and ADHD.
neurodivergent.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, honestly, I don't even like, maybe. Yeah, sure.
Which, like, of course, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But it's just, it's weird. You know, it's like a weird thing.
The fixation with, like, the Sigma shit is so weird. It falls in line with the alpha male shit, too.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, I don't fit in this alpha male category, so I need to create this other category of masculinity it's actually better than the alpha male.
Yeah.
Because I do all these things, and these things are actually really cool, but I'm really highly motivated. I just don't like people. It's like, if you just decoupled your brain from the idea of masculinity, you wouldn't need any of this shit.
Exactly.
And this is also obfuscating the fact that the Sigma grind set just unironically perpetuates all the worst parts of capitalism.
Oh, yeah.
It is just working yourself to death.
Yeah.
All you do is grind. Hobbies, any hobby that you have, you need to turn into a 9-to-5. You need to turn into a stream of income. You should only be having passive income, 4-hour work week, but actually you need to be working for every hour of the week.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
No, all of it just describes very destructive tendencies. Like, there's no reason that you should put in more than you're required at work to get paid.
Facts, bro.
Like, and people will always say, like, well, you should care about your job. You should take pride. Why would I take pride in a job that is actively exploiting me?
And it's like the Sigma grind set. Unironically, I would say is how boomers operated, and that's why they turned all their hobbies, or they didn't even have hobbies because they were just worked to death by their job.
Yeah.
So in order to survive, they had to couple everything that means something to them to their job. So by the time that they retired, they got depressed. And this is a real phenomenon that we're seeing right now is boomers that did retire are insanely depressed, and they end up dying early because they don't know what to do themselves when they're outside of work.
Yeah.
And if you don't see that as a function of capitalism and as the rhetoric that we push forward and how people should treat their job, then something's wrong with you. I'm sorry.
I can't remember what theoretical framework this comes from, but I don't remember what philosopher it was, but they describe all problems with society today boiling down to white supremacy, the patriarchy, and capitalism as the motivating oppressive forces within society.
Facts, baby. It was me. I'm that philosopher.
Oh, yeah, that's you.
Let's go. Gage,
no, but like, I mean, when you tie all of your identity
Mm-hmm.
to whatever you grind, and it's usually just like a minimum wage job where all of your profits are going to somebody else, you are ultimately already disconnected from that work.
Yeah.
You already don't profit from any of it. It's already not yours. And then when you retire from it, you have absolutely nothing.
Yeah, it's like you can't decouple yourself from the alienation that you feel
Yeah.
once you've sunk your whole entire life, your whole entire meaning into a job.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have to retire, when you eventually have to leave, there's just nothing for you. It's just empty. There's a hole in your heart that you cannot fill.
Not even to mention that before you went in there, you didn't care about that field in most cases.
Exactly.
Like, you're just going there because you need a check to survive.
It's
capitalism,
some corporate job.
Drains all of the creativity out of people. And this podcast is literally a representation of us trying to resist our creativity being sucked out of us. Like, because we could be working like a minimum wage job, and like we probably will be.
Yeah,
like,
I will be. Yeah,
like we're gonna be working a minimum wage job, but like at the very least, we and other people are trying to be creative and like, you know, spread whatever message it is we're trying to spread out into the world. And like, you don't even have to like start a political podcast to do that. You could just be making art. You could be making music. You could be making a product that you're selling to people that is something that is your own, that you are yourself benefiting from, that you're not alienated from.
You don't even have to sell it. It's so important to have hobbies that you aren't making money from, that you do simply because you love them. Because then you will have something to fall back on when you are alienated from your labor. And that's why it is so hard to just convince people that capitalism is actively oppressing them, because we are conditioned our whole lives to sink everything we can into work, to work in a field that we find meaningful, rather than just treating work like a check, which it is. You work because you have to. I'm sorry. It's nice to love what you do. You can absolutely love what you do, but you need things outside of that.
And unfortunately, within the capitalist framework, within the capitalist system, a lot of the time, if you want to survive and you also want to have hobbies, you got to find a way to monetize your hobbies, which really sucks, because it draws, it drains that activity from the intrinsic value that you previously got from it.
Because again,
like, you shouldn't have to make a profit just to survive. That's all it boils down to.
You shouldn't have to make a profit to have fun. To enjoy your life, you shouldn't have to be actively profiting. This is a moral argument, people. 1000%, yeah.
And you know what? Right-wingers may watch this, if we have any, like, hate watchers.
I hope so.
And they may say, like, well, you're just lazy.
Yeah, please comment that below.
I am.
Actually. Facts, I am lazy. I don't want to work. You're not wrong.
I don't want to work.
I'm sure you don't either, deep down.
Like, there's things that average people work really hard on that they care about, but they don't work hard at their job because there's no reason for them to. What motivation do they have to work hard at their job other than, like, you might not die. You might not starve. You might get food on the table for your family next week.
Bro, even at school, like, we've talked about this. About this. I'll sit down to write like a 2-page paper and it'll take me all day, but I'll bust out 4 pages of show notes in like an hour just going crazy on here. Yeah. Because I enjoy it.
We need to have a society and an economic framework, and we're getting very far away from the topic, but if we want to have like a successful society, we need one where people are empowered to pursue what they actually care about, so that when they actually pursue that is something they will be hardworking at.
Yes,
they will provide for society, and they will enjoy providing for society because they'll be doing something that they actually care about. But tying you down to a 9-to-5 desk job day in and day out while getting paid barely enough to survive is not going to motivate you, and not going to make you care about the job that you're working, not going to make you care about your country, not going to make you care about the people that you're around, the community that you exist in. But what would make you care about that stuff is if you are enabled to actually pursue what you are passionate about, to actually be creative. But we can't do that.
If work was simply treated as a means to an end and we decoupled ourselves from the fetishization of the 40-hour work week, things would just be better.
We're imagining a better world here on
Exactly. I just want a better word for you all. And myself, obviously. That's another thing. Like, you should be anti-capitalist just for completely selfish reasons, because things would just be better for you.
I mean, honestly, it doesn't matter where it starts. If you're being completely selfish and want to rid yourself from capitalism, if you see it as a way to, like, emancipate the human race, doesn't matter. Because ultimately it's better for everybody.
You can want social safety nets for completely selfish reasons, and that's cool with me, because then I get those social safety nets.
You could be the most fierce social justice warrior, care about every single social issue there is, and want to abolish capitalism, or you could just be like, I don't want to work.
Facts. And
I don't want to work at McDonald's.
That leads you directly to those other things.
Yeah.
It's just better. It's literally just better.
Like, people aren't lazy under a socialist organization of the economy. They just get to do things that they actually want.
Exactly. They're not alienated from everything that they do for the constant need to profit.
Yeah. And we can do it. But
Exactly.
that means
we can
that
get there. We literally have the resources right now to get there.
that means that people like Joe Manchin aren't going to be profiting so much from Exxon anymore.
Facts.
That means that Exxon literally wouldn't exist.
Oh, so true, bestie.
That'd be a dub.
So true.
That'd be a dub. That probably wraps it up on our Sigma talk.
That's something. Do we hit free college?
You want to talk about free college real quick? Let's talk about free college.
I'm thinking we hit
real
about
quick.
free college because it's starting to run long.
It is starting to run long, but we can hit up free college real quick.
Exactly. We got it.
So, I mean, the last thing that we could really talk about in terms of free college is, like, a lot of people are very against free college. They're like, why should I have to pay for your college if I'm not even benefiting from it in any way?
That's the main thing. It's like, well, I paid my student loans.
Yeah.
Why should you get a free ride? Because it's just better. Like, imagine I hate to use this example. Imagine if minorities in the 20s living through the civil rights movement said, well, I was segregated against. You should too.
Yeah.
Why would you want future people to just suffer because you suffered?
Yeah.
That's what that boils down to. And free college is ultimately just better for society.
Yeah.
We have a more educated workforce that can actually, advocate for themselves, which is something that they don't want, like, to be fair.
Right.
The powers that be do not want a more educated workforce.
Right, because
they want to keep
secondary education or a higher education indoctrinates you into actually being able to defend yourself.
Exactly.
Like intellectually.
Introduces you to ideas that you can then use to defend yourself with. And also, college in general is the number one way to increase class mobility.
Yes. Always. Education.
Just for that reason alone, it should be free. And it is actively classist and racist, by extension, to hold it behind a paywall, especially a payroll that continues to rise 2 to 4% every single year.
Yeah.
Higher than rates of inflation, and definitely way higher, immensely higher than the rates that your wages are rising.
And that's not even to mention that more people being educated means a more productive workforce, which means a more productive country and economy, which is literally better for everybody. Why do you think we saw a boom in our economy right after the war?
I was going to say,
because
which has
lots and lots of people,
true.
well, one, because we were very we profited a lot off of the war, but also people came back and college was dirt cheap.
Yeah.
You could go to college, get an education, work in a STEM field. I mean, you may not have been working for a job that you wanted to, but at least you knew how to do it.
Thanks.
And our economy boomed.
And you were paid better, too.
Mm-hmm.
And corporate taxes were higher, too.
Yeah.
Good times.
But in a way.
Well, yeah. just in that isolated way.
Right, in a vacuum. Yeah. In terms of, like, education and free college or, like, reduced cost college, it was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, just making college free, I mean, it's not only is it, like, morally necessary, because, like you said, fastest way to upward economic mobility, if we want people to work hard and make a better life for themselves, we have to allow them to do so. We have to remove the barriers to do so. But it's also an economic necessity if we want to be successful, a successful country moving forward, because ultimately other countries are doing this, and even countries that are, like, authoritarian are doing stuff like this because they recognize the importance of having an educated population.
Aren't we, like, the only OECD nation that doesn't have free college?
Free or, like, reduced cost college, yeah.
Crazy.
Our college costs an insane amount. Our healthcare costs an insane amount. Housing costs an insane amount. And most of those price burdens, like, disproportionately fall on poorer people. Like, it's not like when you look across how much it costs to, like, buy and own a home, get a loan, buy a car, that kind of stuff. It costs disproportionately more for poor people to do it.
Crazy because of interest and shit like that. Yeah.
Because banks are more predatory to poor people. And the IRS is more predatory to poor people.
Love it.
So it's harder to be poor. It costs more to be poor, dollar for dollar.
Yeah, it's because the banks are taking a risk on you, though, right? It's because the banks are taking a risk on you. They don't know if you're going to default on your loan. So
bro,
it's justified.
That's so separated from humanity. Like, bro, I'm a human being. What you mean taking a risk?
Yeah, literally.
I'm trying to survive.
It is cheaper to be rich. Like, poor people pay more money just to live than rich people do.
Also, they make that argument about, like, well, banks, they're taking a risk on you, so they need a high interest rate. And then they, at the same time, with student loans, make the argument that, well, you're going through school, so you should be able to pay those back pretty easily. Yep. How can it be a low risk and high risk at the exact same time?
So true.
Someone explain that to me. Explain that to me.
Explain that in the comment section below. Please. I'm begging for engagement.
You also mentioned like having no consideration for the future or future generations. And this episode's making me bust out my political theory chops a little bit.
Okay, let's go.
Because also in political theory, when it comes to democracies, there's this idea that, like, do you focus on the present or do you focus on the future, and how do you balance that tension? And my argument is always that democracies have to focus on the future, or else those in the future won't have a democracy to use.
Facts.
So, like, if civil rights activists in the 20s made the argument, or like in the 50s, whatever, made the argument, they're like, well, I was segregated, so you should be too. You're not considering that future people are going to be oppressed unless you help them.
Yeah.
So, like, people that just paid off their student loans, like, sorry, like, that sucks. And I'm probably going to be there at some point where I had just got done paying back my student loans. But that does not mean that the people that are also being oppressed at the same time do not deserve relief.
Yes.
Because they're just as human as I am.
Exactly.
They deserve relief just as much as I did.
And it's like, it ignores, like, if we're operating that framework that you just presented, it would ignore the fact that the present is the future in this sense.
Yeah.
It's just younger generations. You're just helping younger people out. Like, come on.
Younger people who, in many cases, when they take out their first student loans, are defenseless in our current democracy because they can't vote.
Exactly.
They are paying taxes, but they can't vote.
Yeah. What happened to I'd do anything for my kids? Clearly not.
I would do anything for my kids and only my kids.
Yeah.
Because in our society, all that matters is your own family unit, your own individual interests.
Within the conservative framework that so many Americans operate, the individual is the largest unit that they can focus on, and the individual extends to the family, obviously, because, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. And like, honestly, I found, like, talking with conservatives sometimes, they straight up can't conceptualize systematic issues.
Oh my God,
like,
dude.
they can't understand that systems oppress people in different ways than individuals do. Like, the difference between individual racism and systemic racism, and it's a big difference.
Yeah,
but they can't, like, fathom that institutions can function separately from people.
Yes.
Or they don't understand. Like, and here's something that I really don't understand.
Okay.
It's like, back in the 60s, or like back in or even before that, we can agree that there were racist people in control of the government.
Yes.
Why would you not think that the institutions that those people created would not also function in a racist way?
And it's like, even when we're talking about systemic racism, I can see how maybe, like, if you're saying these institutions are racist, how you couldn't get people. But when you start, like, talking about the very true thing that some of these laws are racist, like the sentencing disparity between crack and cocaine, again, that is a explicitly racist law.
Or poll taxes. They didn't say anything about black or white, but they were intended to keep black people from voting.
Like, they can't look at that and be like, oh, then from this, I understand what you mean about how individual racism codifies racism into the law and thus perpetuates systems of racism. Yeah. It's not that hard.
That, I swear, if I explain that to, like, a fourth grader, they could understand.
I've explained it to some college students, and they do not understand.
Maybe college education don't work.
maybe
I'm flipping my take. I'm flipping my take around.
You know what? Scratch the episode. That's it.
Yeah, we're actually a authoritarian right podcast now.
Yeah. Yes.
Anyway, I think that probably sums it up for the episode. I hope that we've adequately prepared you for the holidays.
Exactly.
And I hope that you're ready to combat whatever
aunt,
far
whatever
right aunt,
extended
uncle,
family you got.
Family member comes up to you and says, like, you know what? You don't deserve free college. And you can be like, well, hold on. It's good for you too.
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, you can understand it's a benefit society economically and morally. There you go. I'm helping you out, giving you a script.
Exactly. But before we go, gotta give a special thanks. I'm not forgetting this week, guys.
Yeah, no.
Gotta give a special thanks to Cricket Scrapbook Layouts, Nikki Nine Lives, Caden Kraut, Terrence Nicholson, Chris the Postman, Christy Beck, Omar Zuno, and my mom for supporting the show on Patreon. If you want to have your name shouted out amongst those people, check out the Patreon. Support the show.
You know what to do.
Head over there.
Have a great Christmas if you celebrate. Don't know what other holidays are going on. My bad. Have a happy holidays, everybody.
We are PC around here. Have a happy holidays. And we hope it goes well at your debates that are eventually going to happen.
Exactly. Will we be back before the new year?
I think we will.
I know we will for patrons, but I don't know about, like, general people.
We'll see y'all next Wednesday.
Exactly. Whatever that is, we'll be there.
Bye, y'all.
Have a good one.